.2, right?
No. We're on
19 dot aught.
2018. So if someone was in the coma for 10 years, wakes up this morning,
They would be very
listens to our
scared.
podcast.
Yeah, they would be
so we have
scared.
to tell them it's 2018.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is president,
Oh, that's scary.
and this is the failure of the podcast.
Yeah.
No, I've been advised not to go political in some of my past comments at the MIT Enterprise Forum. So,
Oh, really? Okay.
that was Ziad saying it, not me.
Okay, so our guests today on podcast 19 are, let's begin with Jeff and introduce yourselves.
Yeah, thanks for having us, David, Ziad, and Mark. Jeff Champagne from NPR Associates, proud sponsor of Boston Harbor Angels, and really happy to be here today.
Yeah. This, by the way, is not a BHA production.
Oh, this is not? Okay.
It is not,
Excellent.
no.
It is.
No, we could care less about BHA.
Oh, no.
That's brutal.
No.
As a sponsor, I'd have to disagree, but
Don't
sure.
yell. Sorry.
Yeah, he's yelling at me.
And I brought my colleague
Thankfully,
with
the
me.
limiter's on.
Craig, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is Craig Mock, Director of Product Design with NPR Associates.
Cool.
What the hell is NPR
So
Associates?
M like M.
Yeah, not like National Public Radio.
Speaking of failure of the podcast, everything
Yes.
we do at NPR is about reducing
Success?
the risk of failure.
What
right?
does NPR stand for?
So NPR stands for Mandel, Panoff, and Rockwell. They were Admiral Rickover's chief engineers, and they invented the nuclear submarine back in the day. So they
Okay.
put a nuclear reactor in a tin can, put it under the Arctic ice caps, and came back with a core sample, and then launched the nuclear navy.
I'm more interested in the people that invented the submarine sandwich.
So,
but
so here's in where it lies, though, is that everything
Yeah.
is about that risk reduction, so that you don't have those failures.
Right.
But
it's kind of bad to have a failure underwater, right?
Unmitigated, yeah, for sure. Unmitigated, though, when clients or other companies don't take our advice in reducing their risk, we've seen some train wrecks, and we'll share a couple of those
Okay.
today, and we'll scrub out some of the proprietary details so the guilty
Oh, that's
go
cool.
unblamed.
So I'm sorry.
For
So
those
did
who
we-
can't see us, we have a spit guard in front of the mic.
Yeah, that may help. A pop filter.
Pop filter.
But we've got, we're doing a video today.
Oh, today it's not streamed. It's
streamed. It's
re-
recorded.
recorded to be streamed later
Well,
on.
It's
It
going
may work,
to
it may not
look like a
work.
bad Stormy Daniels video.
Yeah.
So let me jump right in. Guys, tell us about one product that failed.
Don't pound the table.
Where do we start? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's lots of graveyard stories, right? So as you
Okay.
walk through the graveyard and see lessons learned. I actually wore one today that I thought would be interesting to talk about because I just went on recently and
What is
saw
that?
they're back.
Je-
So this is
Jeff pulled something off of his shirt.
I
I
did.
don't even want to ask
So
what
this,
that is.
this is a light meter.
Okay.
And we had a startup company come to us a few years ago. And,
Oh, I
and
know that
Sunsprite,
company,
right?
yeah.
Harvard-based technology.
Yeah,
and-
well,
and-
should we mention their name or no?
Well, I think I just did, but we can bleep that
Okay.
out. So,
not
so they have this.
We
They have
don't
this
bleep.
light
We don't
meter
bleep.
that just wants you to get 30 minutes of light a
We
day.
bleep Mark
Okay.
And in doing so, it's actually quite
Oh, I remember
ingenious
them.
because you're,
Yeah.
you're going to get outside, you're going to get
It's the
some more
vitamin
light.
D.
You might walk
I
around the
almost
block. Well,
invested in this
actually,
company.
it's for the
really?
light exposure
Scary.
to your brain.
Okay.
Oh,
makes
shoot.
you
Wait a
happy.
minute. I have to turn the recorder on.
Okay.
Hold on.
No,
We'll
he
start
jokes.
over.
It's always the same. He makes the same joke.
yeah, we're actually listening to that other podcast where you forgot to turn it on. So, are we sure this
I
time?
will get over that after about
Okay.
100
So
episodes.
it's an interesting technology, but after a couple of years of trying to raise funds and trying to get some traction, they just out of
Went away.
existence. They just ran out of cash, I
Really?
think. But I don't know how, but I had an ad for them in my Gmail the other day.
Interesting.
And I guess they're back. So I need to find out the details, but somebody else,
So what
no
was-
names that I recognized, were on this technology.
So you know nothing about the failure other than that they somehow failed.
They ran out of money. They ran out of money.
that's a failure.
Yep, then that's a big
Oh,
failure.
wait a minute.
Well, I know why they
There's a
failed.
genius
Okay.
in the room. Oh, wait, there's a genius in the room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Named Ziad. And what he's going to tell you is that when companies run out of money,
Yeah.
they often fail.
They do. This is
that amazing?
One of the symptoms.
If you listen to the previous podcast, you'll hear my philosophy of why companies
God,
fail.
not this
Is
again.
that the one that
David-
you weren't on?
David always
From Davos?
summarizes it to very simplistic.
So let's level set first of all, because I'm perhaps a little in the
Yeah,
dark.
no, I agree. You're in the dark.
What
needs
do
a
you
back-
Wait a minute,
guys
wait a minute,
do?
wait a minute.
So what do we do?
Before anything? Because I have no idea
That's
who we are.
who
yeah.
you are. I mean, I know your names now, but what
Yeah.
does your company do?
Yeah, sure. So for those listening, Breakthrough Products will walk you through what we do. We're a product development firm based in Alexandria, Virginia.
No pitching.
The firm's been around for 50 years, and we help companies develop breakthrough medical devices.
Stuff.
So
Stuff,
okay,
yeah.
so you
Medical
are a contract firm for hire.
For engineering, that's
For
right.
engineering.
Yep.
So you don't do industrial design, or is that part
Sure,
of
we
your
do
Yes,
industrial
you
design. Yep.
So
It's a full suite, industrial,
And by the way,
mechanical,
this is the
electrical,
serious
software.
part of the podcast.
Oh, I'm being-
No, I need to understand
The
context so I
interview
can
part.
crack.
No, I
the
agree. I was
so
beginning
do
to
you
wonder
think
what
we
we were
can?
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so
Okay, so
Hold on.
product
Keep going.
design for
They do
hire.
product. Oh no, don't write notes. You're gonna kill us. Okay, so product design for hire. How long you guys have been around? Did you say?
52 years, 53 years,
And you guys have been around that long?
54 years. So Craig's been with the company since
1990.
Yeah,
So a while.
1990.
1990.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, so you must have stories.
Fresh out of school.
left and came back though. So he's got some.
I had a
some stories
sabbatical
in
for
the-
6 years and I came back.
Okay.
So tell us the best product you've ever worked on, and tell us the worst product you've ever worked on.
Well, one of the interesting products we worked on was a stem cell separation device. You take adipose tissue from your abdomen, you load it in this
What kind of tissue?
adipose tissue.
Fat.
Fat cells.
tissue.
Fat.
That's a
The
fancy
yummy
way of saying
yellow
fat.
stuff.
And you have these kind of like stem cells in there. And you put it in this device, and an hour later, it automatically processes the sample, and you walk away with a syringe filled with saline and your own adult stem cells, essentially.
Wow.
So that's a pretty neat product.
Okay, so going back to Mark's question, because it's fair for people that, I mean, if we're going to provide any value at all, and it's debatable
Why
whether.
start now?
Yeah, that's true. So without pitching,
Yeah.
how does somebody, a client, I guess you'd call them, or a customer,
Or what define what a client would
yeah,
be.
yes, and how do they come to you, and make it generic, as in there's other firms of your type around.
for sure.
So sort of generically, how does somebody come to a firm like yours, and what do you do for them? And this may be the only thing of value we
So,
provide.
so am I a scientist with an idea, and then I need somebody to actually flesh it out?
Sometimes you might be a physician entrepreneur. In this
Okay.
case, they came to us and they said, "Listen, we've got this, 2 or 3 day laborious process that takes 2 PhDs and 23 steps to do." And they said, "We just want to push a button."
Okay.
And so we went and looked at all that process, and Craig could probably lay it out a little bit better, but that's essentially what they came to us with.
All right.
And then we made a machine.
Well,
so
how do they find you?
Take out the
How
fat.
do they find you?
That's
Are you a consultant like a law firm is?
Yeah, but we don't market the way that other firms do. We're not out there marketing. We're very much under the radar. It's really kind of relationships, and people hear,
Right.
oh, these guys do things that other people can't do. And that's
So
what we
I've
do.
heard of startups looking for who have a widget they want. They've come up with a new golf club that ultimately they want to market to somebody, and they will somehow find out about the local machinist who can make a golf club for them that looks like what they imagine it should look like.
Sure.
And then the machinist will make a prototype, and then they'll use the customer or client will use that to go around and show potential
Investors,
buyers,
sure.
investors or buyers or whatever. So you guys are a really high-end version of that.
Yeah, I'd say, but it's really focused on.
Sorry, I'm
On
trying
the
to bring this down
realization.
to.
So yeah, there's 4 reasons why they come to us. So typically,
firm
it's,
like yours.
it's technology development, right?
Right.
So they come to us, they sketch something on a napkin, say, "Hey, I've got an idea for this," and we've got a couple of those. That,
So going back to my example, could somebody come to you and say, I think it would be really cool to come up with a golf club that made $1 billion. Can you guys design it for me?
sure.
And what would you then do?
Send you a contract for a retainer.
Yeah, yeah, I'm serious. What would you do?
We'd brainstorm it. We'd probably workshop it. Get some really bright designers and engineers
Get
around the table.
AutoCAD drawings, and
Yeah.
then
What would you charge to come up? So let's say Boston Harbor Angels were to, what's the word? What do they do in music?
Ideate?
No, ideate. Yeah, ideate.
Yeah, ideate.
Ideate. Let's ideate. How much would it cost to get you guys to design a whole new golf club that would be the best golf club, or certainly a good one, that Ping would buy?
Golf clubs aren't really our thing, but
Yeah,
if
so-
you're-
so
if you're-
actually
if
that's
something
you're-
different.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love
if
it.
you're-
Is your swim lane always medical?
It's mostly
For
life
the most
sciences.
part, yeah.
Life sciences?
So last firm I was with was a plethora of different industries. But
plethora?
Plethora. It was very
PLE.
So it was materials. We had groups like Titleists and others as clients,
Okay.
right? So we'd look at golf ball materials and things like that.
But someone else is coming to
in this
you
case-
with their core idea saying, I have, we'll use a physician example. I just came up with a technique for whatever.
Right, and typically when there's deep invention and there's new IP that's developed, It's in an area where we aren't that familiar.
Who
right?
gets the rights in that, by the way?
Oh, they do. It's all assigned to them.
Yeah, you're
All work for hire.
contract. You're a
We sign over
consultant,
everything.
and
Yeah.
I don't know why is it so complicated to understand. They just do
I'm
anything
slow.
you want in the engineering world. That's how I think. of it.
Right, but,
You know,
it's
You
very,
go to
it's very
Jeff and you
focused.
tell him, "I want to do this," and they said, "Sure."
Well, I was just asking if he'd do a golf club for me, and he suggested
so
he might
his
not.
Speaking of
answer is no.
failures, the reason why a lot of companies would come to us is when things fail, when things go off the tracks. So they've
Okay.
got a core technology.
Wait a
they're
minute,
developing.
Mark's off the tracks. Can you fix him?
And
There's not enough money in the world to do that.
and there's an inherent problem with the core technology.
Okay.
And when that happens, we send in a team to go and do an assessment.
Oh, the
Right.
pros
We
from
figure out
Dover.
what the problem is. Yeah, that's
Remember
right.
that? Cultural reference.
When things, I don't know if I can mention specific power plants. When things
Sure
go
you
wrong
can.
with really big power plants, like earthquakes happen and
Right,
leaks
yeah.
happen and things like
You
that,
like in Japan?
they call us first, and we parachute in to fix the
Okay.
big problems.
So there's a triage aspect. There's
Yeah.
just core development. David and I are physicians, and we just had this
Shit
great
goes
idea.
sideways.
We
Yeah.
play them on a podcast.
Yeah, yeah. So then, yeah, but so I get the tech development, I get the assessment. You do industrial design.
What do gigs cost? What do you guys make
It's,
for
it's
a
really,
gig?
it's
not
really
a
first
profit.
principles engineering, right?
What-
So
Okay.
breaking the problems down into chunks that are solvable
Okay.
and then building
Are
them.
do
these
the
like-
market research around that too? Sorry, David.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm
We have a,
interrupting
we
you.
have
A lot
a
of
full
human
library.
factors, voice of the customer, all that.
Okay.
Hold on. So a gig for you guys, is it like make you $100, $100,000, $100 million, $100 billion?
It's a couple million.
It varies. It varies between probably the smallest project we'll do is maybe 50K. Full scale development is measured in the millions, maybe $1 to $5 million.
So let's say I want to make a device that attaches to David's mic and turns off every time he speaks. I can come to you and say, "This is
easy.
what I want." That's easy.
They do that one for free after
Yeah.
after listening.
That would be
Okay, so
a public
this is-
service.
the boring stuff now is behind us.
Oh, no,
yeah.
no, no.
Let's talk
Mark and I
about-
have just begun.
Let's talk about the interesting things.
Yeah, so
What's
the
that?
context would be a project or two that you want to talk about that had an aspect that failed, and then perhaps what happened from that. Ziad, I'm going to kill you.
Ziad,
with
we're
this.
So I
gonna
think
kill
on
you
the
with
way
that
down here, we were
iPad
talking
on.
about one that, they came to us and they just hadn't proven their core technology yet.
Okay.
And yet they wanted to realize this product that was going to be marketable and out on the market.
Okay.
So maybe we can chat broadly about what kind of challenge that presents.
Which
So-
run
so
was this?
This team had like a
There's a few of them.
$4 million a quarter burn, right?
Yeah.
And then they've got 60 employees or so.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And they're just churning through cash, but yet they hadn't proven the core technology.
So ABC company.
Right, ABC
Yeah.
company.
What was the product in a generic way, or what swim lane was it in?
The biosensor.
Okay, so-
Something that you would wear on your body. It was really sexy. It had Bluetooth Low Energy, like. so
Did it
many-
look like this
so many of them
biosensor
do.
for sensing light, or this is
No,
a
it's-
light sensor?
That's a light sensor, but this
Oh.
was
Like a wearable.
like
Okay.
a wearable thing that
Yeah.
measured some stuff on your body and beamed it over to your cell phone and things
Oh,
like
really?
that.
So is it true?
Like
so,
the original Fitbit.
Is it
was.
bigger than a bread basket?
Kind of, but for biologics, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
got
so
it.
they built everything around it, the marketing, the sales, and then but their true core technology was still not
sensor
continuing
itself.
to- the sensor itself.
Okay.
So,
Did
so
not
they
work.
spent all the money on everything else except the
Tens of millions of dollars.
Perfecting the sensor.
And then they called you up and say,
I'm sorry, I'm
Oops.
confused. You're telling me that their core technology they didn't have right? Or did they have that was the only thing they had right?
They were
I'm
working
slow.
on perfecting the sensor. It was a challenging problem.
And that was their core
And
technology?
while they were still sort of perfecting the sensor, they go and staff up big and have
They must have raised a
lots
lot
of
of money.
people,
We
call it
lots
the
of
California
managers.
model.
Yeah, we call that the California model because a lot of times companies will hire us and we'll put a team of 10 people developing the device and the product. And we may have 20 people at our client watching our 10 people do the work.
Oh,
and-
it's a union shop.
Yeah, so-
and they twiddle their thumbs and
So what
Do you live in Brighton, by the way?
acting.
Yeah.
Acton.
Yeah.
You ever been in Brighton? There's a walk. There's a Chinese. By the way, there's a quick question. If Ziad were to come to you and say, "How do I make my phone not make that sound?" You would probably say to him, "Don't use the airplane button. Use the do not disturb button."
No, use
right?
the power off button.
There's a little silence lever on the side.
In
You flip.
a minute, I'm going to pick it up and put it in the next room, and then it can beep all at once.
"Oh my God."
Oh, I know. So going back, I was mentioning this Chinese walk place you can go in Brighton with the big window. So we watch them cook the food late at night.
Sure,
Is
sure.
this like you guys working with the walks and the fire?
I don't
and-
know if you can. It's
in the heat.
That is such
Yeah,
an odd
if you take a trip down to
setup for an
Alexandria,
question.
if you take a trip down to Alexandria, yeah, the behind the scenes at the lab and
Right.
the industrial design studio, You see a lot of that.
Okay, so these
Yeah,
guys, this company, ABC company, has thought they were the pros from Dover when it came to sensors. Apparently not. And they built a product around it. They staffed up on the California model
And raise money.
Raise a lot of
And
money.
then, yeah.
Roughly?
Over 40 million.
Okay.
Easily,
Ooh.
well over 40.
So
I
you
think
guys
60
were
around.
like a decimal point in this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then everyone's ready to
And the
go.
funny thing,
Yeah.
the funny thing was, is that when we originally engaged, before we even got into the conversation, we went down there to meet with them,
Yeah.
and Craig said to him, "Hey, listen. So I think I've got figured out what the next step is." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" "Well, we're just going to do an assessment, and it's going to cost you $40,000, and it'll be done in how long?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. It'll be done.
Look at your core technology. And
We're gonna assess your
See
core
what's what.
technology, see where we're at,
Yeah.
and then we'll course correct and get you on the path." And that's what we do. We
Right.
get them back on the track, and we start going fast.
But then what happened? Because there's obviously a story here.
But that's very sensitive
they said-
because
Yeah,
you have investors, you have board members.
Oh, yeah.
Like this bringing you in should be done sometimes under secrecy. All right,
for sure. And this was meeting with their brand new CEO. Their
Ooh,
core
did
team.
the other one get replaced when the shit hit the fan?
Yeah, but I don't think they really knew that the shit was hitting the fan.
Oh, they didn't. He just got replaced because that's the California thing to do.
Yeah, but Craig has this clairvoyancy where he just looked at their website and said, "Oh yeah, I know exactly."
This is what you should do. And they said, well, how did you write this proposal? I said, well, I looked at your website, and I've been doing this for 30 years, so it's pretty obvious what the next steps
They
are.
thought that was a trade secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, they thought that
didn't
was
work so
that
well.
was too obvious.
They
But
thought the
that
website was a
that
trade secret.
$40,000 would have prevented them from $60 million.
Oh, I'm sorry. So they came along and they wanted. I'm sorry. Why'd they come to you for? Why did they come to you? Because something was going wrong. Did they know what was
Yeah.
going wrong?
Yeah, yeah. Jeff had the initial contact, and we had the initial meeting. Turns out that they needed a demo for a trade show, so instead of doing the early assessment, we
We did it.
pivoted and
went
helped them.
went to impress the investors route instead
Yeah.
of fix the problem route.
yeah, but that's very common. Like what you're describing is not something unique to one instance. It seems that it's very common in companies, in startups, to ignore the core or to keep going thinking, oh, it's going to happen, we're going to fix it,
Yeah, we
it's
just,
going to work.
money will fix it, right? We just
Money
need
will
more
fix it, exactly.
Yeah, I
this
tell.
is
What
like
is that if you have a leak?
We're not laughing
the
with
money
you,
just
we're
goes
laughing
away
at
by
you.
itself anyway.
Oh,
Yeah, but this is, I mean, having been on the product side for 35, 40 years myself, you've got CES, you've got CTIA, which is now called MWC Americas, in the mobile world. You've got all these events, and there's a trade show calendar. So that's also,
Oh, sure.
that becomes you back off, 4 months, and that becomes a product design calendar.
But you're building a house of cards.
Yeah.
So when
that's
did
exactly
they realize
right.
something? I'm sorry, I'm being very slow. When did they realize something was wrong?
Quite a ways into it, actually.
I mean, but when the trade show came and went.
Oh yeah, that came and went.
And what did they do? They have. I'm sorry, another reference, but not a cultural one. Did they have the little? What do you call them? The squirrels in the cage running the trade show, or did the thing actually kind of run for the trade show?
It was running in simulated mode. It was
Good old
One of the
simulation.
things that they never envisioned was it was really difficult to hook everything together, and you need people and sensors and. So how do you do
this
this at a
wasn't
trade show?
Theranos, was it? Or
No. How do you do this at a trade show? So we kind of put it in simulator mode, and so it demoed what would happen, but saved you
invest in
from
simulations all
hooking
the
everything
time.
together.
Of course.
Mark
It looked
is a
nice.
simulation, a failed one.
It's a hologram, I think.
Okay, so they go to the trade show in simulation
very
mode, and
one-dimensional.
they get raise even more money and more customer interest.
Indeed, yeah.
And then what happened?
And then there's a pivot where they slightly
they
changed
pivot?
the market segment from in-hospital use to more consumer use.
Why?
Bigger market.
Okay, so
market.
somebody
They went
realized
Bigger
from-
market
From
and
a
less.
B2B to a B2C.
Yeah, bigger market
Big
and
mistake.
less barrier to entry. So
whose genius idea was that, by the way?
we were not involved in that decision. So
Okay.
that was
That was Jeff then.
So I see
would be Jeff.
sort of multiple rolling failures.
yeah,
And do they become cumulative? Is it like a snowball at the top of the hill?
Yeah.
That all of a sudden you're rolling downhill and picks up speed?
Yeah, but I think part of the heart of this was the sensor was the company, but
Okay.
there was a lot of activities going that weren't directly involved with the sensor. It was, let's have an iPhone app that talks to the sensor. Let's have a pole-based thing that talks to the sensor.
Wait a minute, Ziad should be getting excited right now. We're getting to the failure. We haven't gotten to the failure, but keep going. So what happens? They go from, first they have
the train is about to hit the.
Yeah. So first we're in simulation mode. The investors are on board. Everyone's excited. They go to the trade show. It simulates. Then somebody says there's a bigger market out there. So
and
where
there's
are
a
we
shift
right
in
now?
who the customer is, which is a
Yeah,
big
yeah. So then what happens?
So we do a pivot and we go
No,
off.
we, not you.
It-
You're
they
not.
did-
Are you involved yet?
They
You're not
did.
involved.
Well, we did the trade show demo,
You mean the simulation?
the quick hit, quick hit, yeah.
I'm sorry. To be really clear, did you do the simulation or did
We
you do the
did.
product that was supposed to be shown at the simulation?
This happened before we got involved. We got brought in to do the simulation.
Can I imagine the conversation to go
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
this? We'd like to show this at the trade show, but it doesn't work. And then you said, well, we can fix it, or we can do a simulation. And they said, let's do the simulation.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't.
Let's
They,
get a demo.
they knew that they couldn't fix it in the 2 weeks time. So this is me, Craig, kicking Jeff under the table because it's December 21st and
Saying,
it's
"You
JP
dumb
Morgan.
F.
2 weeks
Why
in
did you
January.
bring these
We
guys
got to go
in?"
to JP Morgan.
And is there any way possible you can get this done before
I had to
JP Morgan?
apologize to his wife for him being in the basement during.
Right.
Yeah.
So we did what we did. We jumped in and we got it done. And he flew one out and we shipped one. And
Yeah,
they met at the
carried it
show.
on a
So
plane.
Okay.
yeah. So that was
Snakes on a
saved the show. Good demo. And then it was about doing the pivot and
Oh, so you're jumping ahead. No.
Yeah.
So they go to the trade show, all that's good. So they do the customer pivot. So
Yeah.
when does the shit start hitting the fan? When does the fun happen? Sparks, squealing wheels.
It was one of those slow train wrecks. I mean, it happened over the course of a year.
Oh, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why? What happened? Come on.
it was just
This is
about
fun.
the.
Oh, they ultimately failed?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So
big
we're
time.
not talking just about the
No,
product.
that's why you get
the
excited.
whole
We're
company.
talking about the
We're
train
talking
starting
about
to, something's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, keep going. This is fun.
So there's some details we obviously can't share, but the implosion happened because infighting and everything else that goes on.
Right.
So I'm sorry,
and
they go to the
there's a
trade
struggle for
show,
control.
there's a change of all this stuff's going on, and somebody down the engineering section of that says, it doesn't work. Are they paying you guys yet more money to make it work, or is that not happening yet?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is we helped them sort of determine that it wasn't working as well as they would have liked. And,
Right.
and
Well, if that
my-
wasn't otherwise obvious.
Yeah, my surprise in that was the sensor technology's been around a long time. Why are we now just finding this out? So
Right.
there's a common thread here in several of these stories that you have to characterize the IP. The thing that makes your company the company, it's so obvious you shouldn't have to say it.
Right.
But you'd be surprised how many times a year we say this to people, that you have to make sure the thing that makes your company unique, you've got it figured out backwards and forwards, upwards and backwards, every which way.
So just to understand the
Yeah.
train wreck better. So it sounds like they do the trade show, they do the pivot, the investors are in the dark and therefore excited, and everything's moving along. The C-suite's starting to get a little nervous, the engineering team's staying late nights. It's just not working. You guys are getting more and more money from them, and you're just saying, just not quite going to happen. So at what point do they start throwing on the brakes? Because
Well,
now we see an accident happen.
They actually kind of, with our help, we actually sort of righted the ship to the point where it was working,
Right.
and there was light at the end of
How
the
much did
tunnel.
this cost roughly at this stage?
$500,000
Oh, nothing.
To you.
to us.
Yeah.
Okay, so it costs $500,000 and it's
Plus
kind of working?
their burn rate with a whole bunch of people on staff.
And that's the real problem. It wasn't the $500,000; it was the $4 million a quarter that
Right.
they were just churning.
And what were they developing sales at this point with these people?
No,
What were they doing?
I couldn't tell.
Solitaire?
You can't develop sales if you don't have a product to sell.
Yeah.
But they could go out with a simulation
Well, they
thing.
could pre-sell it, but
Yeah.
but even then,
That's always that's a failure that
to
I've
this
been part
day,
of.
I could not tell
in
you
others.
what they could have possibly been spending that.
Yeah,
money on.
we were mystified, really. And this happens to us a fair amount is, again, they staff up a little bit too early in our opinion, and they've got people waiting to do things.
Was there a lot of free fruit in the cafeteria?
Snacks
It's
were
common.
good.
It's
Snacks were
common.
good.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
very common. People overstaff. They prepare for the floodgate of sales, or they say, "Yeah, we need to project."
Well, didn't one of you walk in, or didn't somebody walk in and say, maybe we ought to down staff for a little while we figure this out?
That's the board's turn. I mean, that's the
That's
board's
not-
call.
that's not
our call.
that's
not your
as,
function.
as a paid consultant, we can give them our best advice and say, "Hey, listen, this is going to get you there.
Right.
This is
And these-
ultimate
and
doom."
these 30
And
people,
they're
I'm
gonna
not sure
roll
what
the
they
dice.
do.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
right.
it's 500, you guys are 500K in now, and you're saying, I think we now have a proof of concept, and we think it'll only take another year to bring this to market?
No, we were a little further. I would say we're definitely in the product prototype at that point.
Okay,
We're
so how
ready-
long to
ready-
market at this stage?
Another 3 to 6 months, probably.
And how many months after the trade show were we at this point?
Oh, a full year or so. Maybe 18 months even.
So this was a slow, painful train wreck.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
just watching them from afar. But then, there's a point where they run out of cash, they get more cash.
How much money did they raise? I'd say again.
40 to 60
well
days,
over
they were
40
saying.
to 60, well over.
Oh gosh.
It's a
Yeah,
lot of
but
dough.
It's
To the point where, that $40,000 sounds like a pretty good investment.
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean that's the name of the game.
Right.
You make investments. You base it on a technology. The technology phase. I mean, phase 3 in biotech companies is the same thing.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you have
that's
to
a
get
little
to phase
different,
3.
though.
But there's having a blind spot.
Yeah.
And then there's being completely
Pig-headed.
Yeah, I mean it
that's-
was
yeah.
so obvious.
Yeah.
But do they know? Who knew that you were brought in?
Who knew?
Who knew?
The board, the CEO.
That's it.
Their whole
What, you
C-suite.
didn't wear your logo. You came like incognito.
Oh yeah, it was a quiet.
Did you wear a hazmat suit?
No. It
Sounds like they
Like a
It was-
yellow one?
Well, a
the minute
lot of work we do is on-site meetings for key meetings, but then we do much of the work back in our offices.
Sure.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
so we're at the point the train has now, the brakes are squealing, sparks are flying.
Yeah.
People are jumping off the train.
Oh,
throwing
yeah.
their
Yeah, are
luggage
people
off.
quitting yet? Are
Absolutely.
So
people
what's
quitting?
how does this thing
Yeah.
finally
Yeah, what happened?
explode?
I get a phone call that goes like this:
This is Yad's favorite part. Go,
Yeah.
go slow for him.
stop work.
Oh, I hate those. I've had that call
good-
before.
Yeah, I've had-
That's usually means your last 3 bills will not be paid.
And the first thing,
Don't personalize this, David.
I've been there.
That's
Yeah.
the first funny thing David said today. So
yeah, well, it's not so funny when it's real.
in there.
And the first thing I'm thinking as a project manager is, how many invoices are outstanding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So then what happened?
So then they got a little more money.
Oh.
And they paid some of those bills. And then more infighting, more board, just destroying each other. And then and this was a very public thing. So it was an interesting.
Was this
thing
in
to watch.
California or was it here?
East Coast.
East Coast.
So if you, looking back,
Yeah.
if they had cut down their engineering force by,
Oh no!
by-
Wait a minute. You're going to tell us that
Well, they did
failure
have-
was
they
they
did
ran
have
out of
layoffs.
money.
you know what?
They had layoffs,
Hold
they had
on.
furloughs, they had all these
Yeah.
things that kind of slowed the brakes down. But by that point, the safe is empty.
Yeah,
Right?
and the momentum's gone too.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're
Oh.
18 months plus from
my God.
working prototype
Yep.
at trade show.
Yep.
So someone else has probably developed other products
That's right.
For
that,
sure.
that have surpassed. it.
Absolutely.
right.
No, but
So
there was there
they
a
lost a
point-
competitive advantage.
Was there a point in time where if you had been brought in at that point, maybe
Yes.
6 months earlier, the company would have been saved?
Oh, if we
One
did
of
that,
the
if we did
CEO
that,
says, cut the engineering, bring MPR.
if we did that 40K assessment, they never would have hired up. We would have
Right.
righted the ship right there. I mean, this is the difference between going east and going west. It was clear there was a
Right.
path that needed to be constructed, and then after that, they hired.
Well, is it just possible this was just a bad idea?
No. This was. It
No,
almost
it's
seemed-
there's multi-million dollar companies right now today doing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the market.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
how do you pronounce it again? Theranos did this, right?
No.
No. Fair enough. Well, let's not.
Well, that was
Why not?
that was the West Coast.
Why
yeah.
not?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's wrong? Yeah, what is it?
It's-
First,
I
first,
think-
let's begin with how is it pronounced?
I think
Theranos.
Theranos.
Theranos. Okay.
Which is
So,
the French
how
one.
does Theranos, from what you can tell, compare to what happened with this company? Again, from what you can tell.
Big bold claims.
Well, that sounds similar.
Yeah, but they were
Unproven.
hiding.
Proven
Simulations.
technology.
They got way in front of their skis.
Sure.
I think they raised
their-
a lot
or their
of
blood
money.
test equipment.
Forward-looking statements. What are
Yeah.
those? Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think
I'm
it-
sorry. Take a guess. Take a guess inside because you guys have been around. Take a guess inside the workings of Theranos,
Yeah.
their board, and all the investors and everything else. What happened there that's probably different than your company? Because you're probably right. This stuff is happening all
It's a
around.
slightly different
Yeah.
application of technology.
Well, I
too.
think what happens is a lot of people want to believe the technology is real and it exists and it works. But again, you got to do the due diligence to make sure that it really does indeed work. And I think I'm not familiar with the situation at Theranos, so
Well, it sounds like it didn't
I
work.
can't comment on it specifically.
Yeah.
But it seems to be that possibility. is
So
happening.
I'm gonna postulate to counter your
POS.
postulate to counter your theory that companies
two vocabulary
fail because
words
they're
for
out of
today.
money.
It's
If
a
I
good
can
one.
still remember what I'm about to say, and that what happened here is that companies run out of money because of ready. Here's a new one: inertia. inertia in the wrong direction.
Yeah, but that's what happened to Polaroid. That's why it's
bad
a big
decisions.
boat
No,
that you can't.
no,
you
Polaroid.
can't
The
take
Polaroid
the
case was a
change.
lot different in that they failed to see that the market shifted. They had some cash issues with, in particular, Europe and Russia, and Russia. They had
Any
some
bribes?
cash flow.
Yeah, but
No,
the
no, no.
inertia that he's talking about is when think about a big boat. It's going forward. You can't
Polaroid had
turn
been
it.
like running for 40 years or 30 years or whatever it was,
Yeah, that's
successfully,
the
and it was
inertia.
So
it was a cash machine.
Can you guys explore? Just all I'm trying to do is actually, I think Mark Ziad was getting at this. Explore this issue that this is going on. You said it yourself. This is going on everywhere.
Oh, yeah,
tons of
absolutely.
companies. So generalize.
But
so
what
we
they
know,
would say,
how do we know when it's
let
happening?
me guess. They would say, if you only listened. You didn't listen to the pros.
Right. And in some cases,
40K.
But
you
why
should've
didn't they
listened to
listen?
it.
Why didn't they listen?
you can lead a horse to water, right?
Right.
You can't make a board and the CEO and everybody else do what you know.
But that
because
confirms my theory that the CEO or someone can make the right decision and save the company.
absolutely.
But why
And it takes-
Thank
it
you.
takes-
We
it
can
takes
stop the
humility.
podcast.
Listen, it's a Me
It
Too
takes
time.
humility.
Why
It
didn't
takes-
she?
It takes humility. Right.
bet it-
Exactly. Well, that was
Yeah.
deceit. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a difference,
No,
right?
there's deceit,
Theranos,
yes, yes.
That was deceit.
Oh, that was no. But in your case, I was being generic, as in why didn't he? Sort of Star Trek,
Yeah,
he,
no.
she, or whatever it was.
So, I mean, there's a couple others
didn't
like
like
this
my
that I think
cultural
are also
reference.
good examples of that California model, right?
Right.
And some that were even closer to market that
Okay.
were like about to be there. We're talking 3 months out, and the board decides, hey,
Time to go.
Let's add some more features, right?
Yeah, there was
that's different.
another
This
example
is good-
where
this is-
Oh,
so-
different. A new story.
Wait,
New
wait,
All right, wait. So we're
story.
leaving ABC Company.
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
This one.
Okay.
So start at the
ABC
beginning.
Company failed. Didn't listen at a certain point to the
Yeah.
pros from wherever
Dover.
We'll call this
or
one.
Acton or wherever.
Acton.
We'll call this one DEF, right? Because that's what the
DEF.
board was.
Okay.
The board
So
was
start
deaf.
from
They
the
did not
beginning.
listen.
Oh,
This is
deaf.
another case where
Hey,
we
that's
gave
cute.
them sound
D-
advice.
Yeah.
That is how Mark spells deaf. Def Jam.
Yeah.
Def
Okay.
Jam, for
Def
sure.
Jam.
Right.
Def
So
Jam.
this is-
Oh, we have to do J.
Most Def.
Okay.
That's it.
So
So
start
this-
us from the beginning.
So this second company is actually the
DEF.
company for which the phrase "the California model"
Became.
was coined by,
At
by yours
NPR.
by yours
Yeah.
truly.
That's right.
By yours truly, but it was
Craigisms.
Craigisms.
it was West Coast company we were doing work with. We got to the product prototype. It was very successful, but along the way we had said, there's another idea after the first idea.
Oh, wait a minute.
That
I'm
would
gonna
be
slow you
really
down.
cool.
Slow down.
Yeah.
All right.
When did you get involved? Give us a general idea of technology.
Slow down
This is
even
from the
further.
beginning.
Yeah.
What does DEF Company do?
Yeah.
Give me a generic.
Generally,
Similar-
consumer
similar
products.
So
area.
life sciences.
Life sciences.
Yeah.
Was it a
kinda-
device?
This is
kinda
long
like
enough ago that we can
kind of
probably
like
talk
an
more
infusion
detail.
pump product in a hospital room.
Yep.
Okay.
Say it again.
In the
Kind of
ICU.
like an infusion pump.
Okay.
In a hospital.
In the ICU.
And an infusion pump is something that moves fluids in
Yeah,
and out of
it's attached
the
to your
body.
vein and it pulls
Hospital. Okay.
fluids
So not a consumer product.
into you or maybe out of you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a real medical product.
Yeah,
It's
real
the
medical
kind of
product.
thing that's hiding behind Mark.
And so we
brain
were
functioning.
there
Yeah.
pretty much at the sort of the proverbial napkin stage where they had a concept, they had a good idea, they had a few people working on an early prototype. We got called in and said, "Hey, can you bring us to market?" We said, "Absolutely."
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't go any
Yeah.
further. So did they have more than a good idea? Are you guys, in this case, were you hired because they thought it would be, they had, essentially goes back to my golf club, I think we should have a golf club? Or did they
Yeah, this
say
is-
this should be an infusion pump based on moving, I'm holding up my Clean
This
Smart
is an
thing.
unmet need. This is a
Yeah.
holy grail in the hospital,
Okay.
right? So this is looking at a critical function for the patient
Right.
and making sure they're stable,
It
right?
would eliminate a lot of labor on the nursing staff by automating some
But did
very,
they,
very
did they even
rudimentary
have
things
the
that nurses
sense
have
of
to do.
IP behind this, or did they say, boy, it'd be nice to have a product that served this critical function?
They built a portfolio. They have a.
It was an unmet need. It wasn't so much.
No, but they had
it wasn't
technology. They had
so
some
much-
basic
It
tech.
wasn't
Yeah.
so much. They had an idea more than the technology.
Or did
that's
they
right.
have patents on it, which proves nothing, but did they?
I don't recall
I
if they
think
got
you
to the
lost the
pat
story
stage.
here, so
Yeah.
can
Okay.
you
Oh, no.
keep going with
So,
the
so
story?
technology it started at the napkin, right?
Okay.
Built this technology that monitored this patient and provided critical input for their function in this critical ICU situation, and there's a lot of ingenious technology to enable this monitoring to happen.
Are you patting yourself on the back when you
No,
say
no,
that?
no.
It was their stuff.
It was it was their
okay.
stuff.
That's all right.
So a lot of invention, but they also decided before they got to market that they were going to hire a bunch of people. Right before they
boy.
have a saleable product, they hire a sales team. Before they get a saleable, they hire a marketing team and
Yep.
and all the engineers that are going to be doing nothing while we're actually doing all the engineering behind the scenes. So they have a staff of 30 or 40 or 50 that they're paying.
How much did they raise, roughly?
150 million?
About 10 million.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
nothing.
10, 15.
A little bit
yeah.
more modest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, a very serious burn rate.
Yeah.
And then 3 months before a product is ready, what do they say?
Yeah, we'll take it from here, and we're going to change. We're going to add. We're going to make the first product be what you said the second product could be.
So instead of going to market with a minimal viable product
Yeah.
that was already ready to go,
Yeah.
that was ready to get onto the market and let your sales team at it, they said we're going to add a whole bunch of new features that we think would be important before we launch it.
Did you guys do that, or they took it?
No.
They took it away.
They said we're going
They
to
took
take
it
it.
Why did they make that decision?
Well, because they had staffed up, and then all these people sitting around doing nothing.
Oh.
So I think the people internally.
So that's a perception.
The people internally really
Yeah,
wanted
that's
to
a perception.
take it
So
away.
did you?
So-
Can you explore that? Well, do you know why that decision was made?
We put 2 people on an airplane and flew to California and begged the CEO not to make that decision. So we
And?
had a very high level meeting, and they said, no, we want to do this.
And what
for
happened?
Thanks for your
But
input.
you're an
we're gonna do it this
outsourced
way.
entity.
Yeah, we're a hired consultant.
In general,
Right.
they
But you-
feel that we need to cut
Yeah, but you
off.
told them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Told them exactly what the train wreck was going to look like.
Yeah.
All right.
And they pressed go.
And they
And then
said,
what?
And they said, thank you very much.
Thanks for all the great work. We'll take it from here. 8
Well,
months.
because you're not an objective. I mean,
Yeah.
they're paying you, so technically they
Yeah.
might think, oh, they're saying that because they want to.
They want more work.
They want more
Right.
work.
No,
Yeah.
because everything we get involved with, we want it to go to market, right?
Oh,
we want it to-
yeah. But still, there's this perception.
So
Yeah.
the meta failure here, because I think what you're saying is, again, the brakes screech, sparks flying.
Yep.
They just wouldn't listen.
Yep.
So now,
Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Well,
Sorry,
let me
we
make
never
my
got to the
point.
failure.
So I think the meta failure, we'll get to that, is that you're not perhaps explaining, you're not marketing well, perhaps, that, you know, they're spraying all sorts of
So,
foul
so
stuff.
there's an
So the point I'm trying to make is, I'm wondering if the ultimate failure, and I say this respectfully, but it's a challenge to our esteemed guests. Are you not explaining your expertise well enough at the onset? You know, we've got this portfolio of successes, and these people listened at this key point, and this is the outcome.
Sure.
So are you not selling your outcomes well enough, or are you guys too humble? So it's a challenge. It's not.
Yeah, no. I think that's a insightful. It's a challenge to tell people who think they know better that they're going down the wrong path.
Because you can't do
right?
the parent thing. We were talking before we started recording. We were talking about how we might talk to our kids, and ultimately it's because I said so.
It's a matter of influence,
Right.
But having a board member's ear and getting them to put the brakes
Right.
on.
Wait a minute.
versus-
Wait a minute. You guys, we never heard about the failure. All we heard was that you
It's
took.
like failure porn for
Yes.
you.
So
Yeah,
here we go.
failure
So,
porn.
Well, you know where this is
Fine.
going, right?
Fine.
So
8 months
let me
wanna
tell you
hear
the
it,
rest
though.
of the
This is
story.
like Schadenfreude. I want to hear it,
No, we know
man.
it's going to fail, but we want to.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
So they said they decided basically to add more capabilities instead of go with the minimum
with their
viable
in-house
product.
team.
And
Yeah.
with their in-house
2.0.
team.
Yeah.
And 8 months later, a startup company, out of money, business closed, have some nice IP for sale if anybody wants to buy it.
Did they call you and say we should have listened, or you didn't get that satisfaction?
Oh, we never get the satisfaction.
Did you call them up and say, "I told you so"?
No, that would be. That
I
would
told
be-
you so.com would be a great. But ultimately, again, my question stands. So you guys are proving
Yeah.
yourselves right.
There was too much momentum at that point for them to take our advice, right? They had too much staff. They would have had to shutter the doors anyway.
So why
And
did
go
I still
underground.
did in the meeting where you sent 2 people out? Did you get any insight on why they weren't willing to go to the market with the minimum viable product and start work on version 2 with their own staff? What was behind that decision?
The CEO said his internal team wants to go this other direction.
There was no discussion of why.
They didn't have to justify
really, no.
themselves to us, right?
No.
No, but
that's-
sometimes they
Well,
say
we weren't shareholders.
No,
Yeah.
but sometimes they say these things.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we all think that CEOs are really talented people, and they generally are, but they don't always know
They have
about
other-
their own
other
technology.
issues.
Right.
This CEO came from a very different space and was very successful and was a serial entrepreneur. But
So he made
in
cereal.
this particular
Battle
case,
Creek, Michigan.
Second funny joke.
in this particular case, he wasn't
You're all weak, folks.
fully, I think, apprised of the technology and the complexity of making this change. And
I would have a PowerPoint deck
yeah.
in my back pocket if I was in your guys' shoes saying,
Where are you?
here, where I
Where are you?
where I you, if I was these guys,
Yeah.
I would have a deck that said,
That'll work.
here
Yeah.
the real company names. Here are the companies
Be better.
that didn't listen to us, and here are the outcomes.
Yeah.
Here's what I would have like a ABC company situation.
And we have some anecdotal stories we
recommendations.
share,
Yeah, but
for
they have
sure.
their reputation. I mean, they.
Yeah.
And I would just say, before we walk in, let me take you through the people that didn't listen.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it'd be very powerful.
I think it is powerful, and I think we do share those stories anecdotally, but I haven't put together that PowerPoint.
I just
I'm
think
going
it'd
to
be
take you up
very-
on that
Yeah,
one.
but if
Yeah.
you.
But still,
I may be
if
dead
you go
wrong.
in fire and brimstone from the beginning, it's not a warm and fuzzy feeling that, you know.
That's the I will have told you so.pdf.
Yeah, that's a great
No,
marketing
but
material.
so here's another like.
We'll just
I disagree
direct
with you
them to
on
the
PowerPoint.
podcast.
I think it's
The failure.
Yeah,
you're
there you
getting
go.
paid, so you are de facto not.
Yeah,
an
but they're gonna get
executive
paid
anymore.
either way.
Difficult. Well, it's
So
difficult
defer
to
your
work
fees
against
and
your
then
own.
say, okay, well, I'll defer my fees to show you.
He's
that,
on a deferred fee kick right now.
No, okay.
He is.
He'll get over it.
Yeah, but let's continue. So,
So
Okay,
we
so
need
that's
another story.
DEF company.
Yeah,
so
we-
let's move to the end of the alphabet. XYZ company.
Oh, yeah.
You might have a third.
Yeah, tell us
anecdote,
about
I
the-
take it.
Yeah.
We can go all day, but these are some of the standouts in the crowd.
Well, those couple stories were about more sort of startup type companies. And one thing before we move off startups is we always advise people do not staff up too early.
Right.
And we refer to the California model, and we,
That's
we
right.
do
Yeah.
we do
And
tell
that's-
some of
But
these
if they're in
stories.
California,
That's a
that
takeaway
probably
from
falls
day
on
one.
deaf
Right.
ears.
Yeah.
So you do have a lessons learned.
Absolutely.
As we engage, here's some things that we've learned in the
Yeah.
past.
Half of the companies that we deal with are startups, and the ones that are the most successful are a physician entrepreneur,
Right.
and an investor,
Okay.
and us, right?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
And if they
Yeah.
keep it lean, they get to market.
They
They
keep
get
it mean.
acquired.
Ho, ho, keep it
No,
lean,
but,
keep
but
it
they,
mean.
they
Yeah.
go all the way.
No, that's fair.
And the ones that we've gotten through to be a successful market changing product are just that way, right?
Right.
Or they're very large companies, and those typically we don't get as much credit for because it's part of a much larger brand, and we're kind of behind the scenes. But even those companies can't
what-
get out of their own way. The
so-
large companies.
At the onset, you said you guys work on tech development and
It's
market
the pad.
research and
I'm sorry,
voice
Mark,
of customer.
It's the pad. It's
No,
the
no,
pad.
no, no, no. So the question is, are you also working on a business process with them?
Sure.
So do you come in there as part of that?
We go in as product development process, right?
Okay.
So it's not necessarily at the business level. We do.
I'm sorry, we're not laughing at you. We're laughing at Mark.
That's all right. I'm ignoring it.
That's fine. That's fine. We're working through it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm right here with you, Mark.
thank
So in a lot of
I'm
cases,
trying to provide some value
it's
to our
it's
two
the
listeners.
product development process. And while a lot of companies have great core technology,
Right.
or they have great teams and capabilities, they don't know the product development process
Right.
to get things efficiently to market, and they waste so much time, so much resources, and they just churn through capital.
You are the
It's-
GTD of productization.
Getting things
There
done.
we go. Yeah, hey, there
I
we
like
go.
those.
And Craig, most of all, because in other cases, there's been checks written for $30 million, and they'll burn through that in a couple of years.
Okay,
Where
okay.
would have taken three
They
or 4
burn it in
million?
2 seconds.
Yeah.
So
With 3 or 4
outsource
million,
your
we've got-
engineering.
I want more failure.
Okay, more failure.
More failure.
I think it's on the large company side.
Yeah,
That's when
let's
we'll.
talk
Those will be
about
fun.
Let's
That's,
talk
so
about
we,
those.
we work
that's
with
fine.
both startups
Yeah.
and large companies, and the problem set is all different with large companies.
So big company,
Yeah.
XYZ, big
Yeah.
co,
Yeah,
XYZ.
the XYZ is good.
All right, what's the product?
Or
you-
IBM would
big,
be good.
Big co, and
Connected device.
Oh, this is my specialty. Tell
yeah.
me more.
Oh, you like connectivity?
Do I? Oh, yeah, I'm an IoT guy.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, IoT.
Yeah.
Right. So in this case, it was figuring out the right mode of connectivity, right? Finding
Cellular.
the right technology to do what they want it to do.
Got to be cellular.
oh, that company, I forgot. Where,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
now I'm with it. Now I'm with it.
Let's talk about that company.
You guys
Oh,
can
that
write
one.
notes to each other.
That one, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
geez, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, this sounding
company,
good.
Which even if you walk down the hall, you don't mention the name of the company because it was again those.
You don't talk
told
about
you so,
Apple all the time?
Told you so.
Yeah.
This was going to happen.
Right.
Just
Train wreck,
kidding. That's
slow in
not the
progress.
company.
And in this case, they did the same thing. They said, you know what? We'll take it from here, and we'll start at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
So it's a connected device company. It's an established company.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Multinational.
Okay.
Many,
Not a
many
computer
billions.
company or
Not
anything
a
else,
computer
no.
Tens of
company.
billions of dollars.
Many
No,
billions.
known brand name.
In the industrial space?
Industrial, medical,
Okay.
a lot of
Okay.
sectors.
A lot of
Automotive,
spaces.
a lot of sectors.
And
Multinational.
And they know that innovation is not their strong point.
Okay.
They know
Oh.
that they're not good at it, but
Really?
they still down at the working level, on the
Right.
project level, they think they know better than anyone.
Okay.
So they come to the table with a concept, we want to do this. This is really important to us. We've got competitors in the market that are launching similar products, and we want to go fast. Help us.
We need to embed wireless technology into this device for tracking and data and IoT kind of stuff.
Because we
My
read
world.
that would be a good thing
That's
to
so
have.
hot
It's
today.
such a-
yeah,
exactly.
Oh, so is it that pivot? Is it the board said to the company, "What are
We
you guys
need
doing in
IoT."
IoT?"
Yeah.
And then I do this all the time, where the CEO on the board call goes on mute on his Polycom phone, says, "What's an IoT? Are we the world leader?" And everyone around the table shakes their head up and down.
Yeah.
And then he goes off mute. Yeah, we've got that.
Yep. We can do that.
Yeah.
I
Got
imagine
it.
that happening, and I've heard that happens quite
This
a bit.
sound good. This
Yeah,
sounds very good. So keep going.
So we
Different
get pulled in, and we do a initial sort of system architecture, like we like to call it. Well, if you're
Go slow,
gonna
go fast.
do this, what's the right technology? Is it
You mean,
blue-
for example, how do we take a cereal box and make it an IoT cereal box?
Yeah, how we take a cereal box and make an IoT cereal box. We're going to embed some wireless technologies on it. We're going to put a local display on it so that when you're in front of it, you can look at what's happening. When you're moving it between its various modes of
track it.
operation, you can track it. You can communicate to it. You can
Okay, this
store
all
data in
sounds
it.
good.
All those standard
Yep.
kind of things.
Yep.
And there's about, I don't know, maybe 50 million assets a year to put this thing in. So
Okay.
Okay.
It's a big play for them.
All right.
And it's visibility to the top,
All right.
Yeah.
right?
And this will, to be fair to the CEO or whoever made the decision, the board,
is
this
a
will
game
bring them into the 21st century.
Absolutely. This
So
is a
this is
game changer.
all totally reasonable.
And
Yeah.
it impacts all of their products after this one
Right.
is successful.
This is
Okay.
great. All
Yeah,
good.
so
No failure yet.
We do
So they
system.
focus on just one product out
Yep.
of their whole.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm
So
gonna
we-
take this dumb thing and make it smart.
We
Right.
do a system architecture where we look at what are the use cases, how do we have to interact with it, what's the ecosystem, come up the curve on the domain knowledge.
I'm sorry, quickly. How
Yeah.
much money is there in this for you guys roughly?
For the
Project, for the project.
150K.
Total?
For this
no,
one.
No, for the
Initial, yeah.
evaluation.
Design.
So this basically, it's a scoping study
Yeah.
to figure out, okay, what is it you want to do? Okay, here's the sort of system requirements that support that. Here's the basket of technology.
Yeah.
Bluetooth Low Energy, maybe it's long range wireless, maybe it's Wi-Fi, local display, what kind of battery technology, here you go.
All
And it has
sounds
to
good.
function as a system.
But
Right.
that question, so why did they bring you? Don't they have a huge engineering
'Cause they
department?
just said
That's
They
a great
can't innovate.
question. You would think a huge multinational company would have engineers
Coming out their ears.
coming out their ears. But
Yeah.
but what we're finding more and more is that everything is sort of
Siloed.
compartmentalized, and the development people in a lot of companies are the first to go. When the economy is slow, we're not going to invest in new products, so we don't need development engineers. We need sustaining engineers to ship what we make. We need quality engineers. We need a lot of other engineering, but for product
Okay.
development
That makes
engineers
sense.
are generally the first
Okay,
to get
still
caught.
with you.
That's
Okay,
right.
so you guys
Yeah.
get hired for a chunk of work. It's okay money in it, and you do this initial study. Then what
Yeah.
happens?
Yeah, so we fly over to Europe, and we have a great meeting with
Oops,
them.
you fly to somewhere.
Fly somewhere and have a great meeting with
Say
them.
Europe?
And
It's a continent. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah.
it's a big place, and
It's central to a lot of countries.
industrial companies in
Yeah.
Europe.
which we
Yeah.
transfer to another country.
Yes, but not Russia through Bulgaria.
Yeah. And,
Anyway.
and we have a great meeting, and they love what we did, and they said, "Well, we'll take it from here."
Oh, one of those.
And
We
we
said,
said, "Well, respectfully, you're not ready to take it from here because
we have enough."
You don't have the disconnect was they thought they'd go from an initial scoping study to go
Manufacture it.
to a manufacturer to build it."
Oh,
And I said,
there's a lot of
I'm
other
s-
stage
Yeah.
gates in
Had
in
you
between.
remembered to stamp draft on the thing you sent them?
Yeah. They went from step A to step X in,
Right.
in a matter
Oh,
of.
how'd that go?
Well, so this is the great thing about working with Craig is
Yeah.
he's kind of like the Nostradamus of product development. He said, "Here's what's going to happen." And what did you tell him?
I said, respectfully, you're not ready to take it to a manufacturing standpoint. There's the thing in the middle is called the development development project that has to occur, and you really need to.
And they said, no, we don't.
And what's going to happen? What did you tell him? You literally said, "You'll be back."
Yeah, I said we'll probably be speaking again in a year.
So then what happened?
In a year, we would start speaking
A
again.
year later to the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Told us,
then,
and we
That's
said, "What's going on? Where you at?" We're at the exact same spot you left us
okay,
at.
so we're good. So keep going. This is
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
not
Wait,
no-
one quick question. So the reason why they decided to let you go, because they have all these engineers sitting not doing nothing, but they have a team, so they think
They thought they had an internal
that
competency
the
that
internal-
But they also
Exactly.
thought that their external manufacturing partner had the capabilities
Okay,
to
so
continue developing.
I'll
a
argue there's
system.
no problems yet. Keep going. We want
No,
problems.
I'm kind of back to my earlier point, which is, if I was diagnosing this, I would say from a sales standpoint, you're not saying we create great outcomes, and when people don't follow our direction, they create great failures.
Sure.
They're
Yeah.
more modest than that. Keep going. We want
No,
story.
I'm just
story.
it's,
story.
It's,
So did
it's
you
sort of
eat a
what's
lot
in
of
my
cheese?
head
That's-
still.
that's-
Did you eat a lot of cheese when you were there?
Oh, the cheese plates are great.
So
Yeah.
we're trying to narrow which.
Thanks.
No,
Yeah,
we're not. No, we're not going to narrow it.
Okay. So,
Design-
There's cheese throughout Europe. Come on.
okay. Keep going. So what happens next? No failures yet.
Well, so the other thing that occurs with large corporations is they have sort of a limited memory span, and so this year later, when we re-engage,
They shuffle people around.
they shuffle people around and they say, "Why are we doing this project in the first place?"
was the CEO or board that had initially asked you to do this now gone?
No, it's at that level they were pretty much saying, but this is a large enough company. We're kind of at the group VP level.
Okay. So okay. So then what happened?
Well, then they're still now they're sort of reevaluating. Do they want to continue
Oh,
on and
not a failure.
and do it?
This is
So
just.
I don't think that they would.
I
but-
mean, we're
This is the
3 years
schizo-
out at this point. So they said if they didn't launch it in that first year, then they were going to miss the boat, and they've already.
There
missed
was
the
a
boat.
there was
There's
a competitor
that launched.
that did essentially the same thing.
And are they taking
within
over the
that
market?
time
They
span.
are.
Well, Apple,
what's that-
Apple,
what's
for
that-
example, comes in late to markets and does great.
Yeah, but they're able to create a market.
No,
and
but they also
and
come in
proceed.
late.
But in the IoT world, where you're putting a sensor on a thing,
Yeah.
the
That's a
first
thing.
couple guys in really make the money.
And
I
this
think.
is about market share that exists. So they have a captive audience that they want to make sure
Right.
they're
That-
servicing and providing and getting into that.
I
that
get this
space.
entirely.
Without providing revealing numbers, how much market share did they lose as a result of this debacle?
Tens of millions, it sounds like.
Market share.
Market share.
I bet you they didn't lose much of the market share. They probably lost.
But they
of
didn't.
the-
But they didn't transform the way that they.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
ideally,
okay.
ideally.
And the reason that a lot of companies get into IoT stuff, aside from the
Just
parroting the
irrelevant.
board call, was the transformation.
Right.
So, I mean, I know another,
So we can call this
European-
failure to launch.
no, well, we could,
Yeah.
or I told you so is perhaps
Yeah.
maybe the subtitle. But I know another very large European company where they're all about transformation.
Sure.
They just embraced it and they said, we get it and we're going to we're all in.
Sure.
And they're, a year or so into it and it's really working.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or apparently. And then I know another one that's struggling, another European company, but they're still investing and it's billions and billions of dollars in becoming an IoT centric company.
Well, the other element
just
of
my
this is when you go global is there's not one wireless standard for the globe, and we did
Cellular.
quite a bit of effort to figure out in the local jurisdictions, the U.S., the EU, China, Brazil,
I'll give you my card later.
lots of different places. If you're going to put, as it turns out, Bluetooth Low Energy is fairly ubiquitous.
Right, but
But some of
not-
these other technologies,
But
not
it's still
as
only
much.
short range
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the device, and it doesn't really solve.
So that's
the
another thing
bigger
you have
problem.
to sort of begin with in mind and make sure you're understanding the technology and how they're scaled globally.
Okay, but you could still argue from a failure perspective that this was actually in some ways a good thing, which is somebody had a brain fart and thought they should get into IoT. Then they kind of went down that road, thought maybe they would take it from there. It turned out they didn't take it from there because perhaps they didn't really need to be in that space anyway, and they kept market share enough. They're still the standard. They're still a steady Eddie company.
It's a big brand, so it's hard
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, so maybe this was a good
Yeah.
thing. This is
Yeah.
like the cabinet, the Trump cabinet, parts of the Trump cabinet. They kind of keep us going. Maybe not all the
Yeah,
cabinet.
I
But
just
they
wouldn't go.
have to innovate.
Don't go there.
Don't go there.
I mean, it's part of R&D
Yeah.
budgets, right? It's a
Right.
budget that's supposed to
Yeah.
be not lost, but it's part of
But
the.
so here's the
cost.
sad part about it, and there is a failure here because in the same amount of time, that 3 years that they wasted, they spent so much on internal staff to screw this problem up, where they would have spent a fraction of that to actually
Right.
solve the problem and get to market.
So the failure is they didn't listen to you, which is now the three.
It's a theme.
Yeah. So ABC company, DEF company, XYZ company, You came to them with a plan.
Sure.
You told them what the outcome would be if they followed the plan, and you told them what the outcome would be
wait a
if they
minute, Mark.
didn't. So that's what I'm.
I will
perceiving.
argue that you are simply delivering up. What do they call those in baseball? Your
don't know
the
anything about
meatball
baseball.
pitch. The meatball pitch. I mean, with due respect to our guests, what your comments translate to is, the failure
Is
is
to
a company. No.
What we
the
have here is a failure to
no,
communicate.
No. Failure of the company not to listen to the outside advisor. I will argue outside advisors are often probably wrong.
Sure.
And not worth listening to, or if they're worth listening to, there are so many other factors to take into account that's not the failure here. It's too easy. It's like Ziad's.
Well, this is
they
what I'm
ran
trying
out
to
of
tease
money.
out. So
Right.
I'm not sure
It's
if I'm
too
right.
easy. Too easy.
But
I'm sure that you're wrong.
Well, it depends. It depends.
you.
If the,
People are.
if the advice would have
Thank
gotten
you.
them there, like the $40,000 assessment or the other elements, then I think that it's not too simple. I mean, it's a clear message that was delivered,
Right.
And they ignored it, or
We
they
had
decided
we
they
had
knew better.
conversations with different
Parties.
people in the company.
Yeah.
And a lot of the senior managers understood
Agreed.
what we were telling them.
They agreed.
Agreed with what
Okay,
we were
but
telling
I'm sorry.
them.
Let's go back to my question on market share. How much
Yeah.
market share did they lose?
I don't have a statistic on
couldn't-
that. I really don't.
But they're still in business.
Let's
Yeah.
flip it. Have you been wrong? Have you ever been wrong?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Because
Never.
now you're saying, well, you told them you should go this way, they didn't.
That's a tough
they failed.
question,
So let's
sir.
flip it. Have you don't have to tell the stories because we know you're the best.
Yeah, well, we're not
Have you
we're not
been
talking
wrong?
about success stories here, and there's many
Right.
more of those. But yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Ooh.
I think everybody gives bad advice, but in these specific cases, I
We
think
don't.
it was spot on, right?
You were spot on because you know the outcome, you know what
You
happened.
could see.
Yeah,
They could
right.
see the
It-
train wreck. They
okay,
could
so-
forecast.
Well, yeah,
and-
that's the
and
thing.
it was
We've
at
been
the
doing
time
this a
you could
long
see the train
time,
wreck,
so
right.
we see just how the projects are lining up, and there are a lot of telltale signs along the way for these.
It wasn't retrospect.
Right.
It was while we were there. That's literally the first meeting. We are like, but they don't have this. The
No.
technology."
Okay. So
So
from
there
my
are certain basics that must occur to successfully launch a product.
That's right.
And you're not seeing those things in
And if
place.
you
There's-
follow the process, and this is where it comes back to the legacy of the company, the legacy of our process. If you follow the process, you de-risk the technology.
That's right.
You de-risk the project. You de-risk the company. You de-risk the
I'm
product.
going to continue to be the naysayer. We have all been consultants. Everyone in this room
Sure.
is a consultant.
That's right.
And we all know that, number one, our advice is not always taken. And we all want to think it's because of a failure of the
But
client.
this sounds like
But
it's
if-
more
but if-
obvious.
But
No,
if you
but no,
follow
I
the
don't-
process,
Right.
the failure does not
Because
occur.
so our
No,
friend,
no, no,
our
no.
friend from our Polaroid podcast, Dr. Sam Leggero, teaches essentially a product design, product development, and there's a stage gate, and it's a common
You guys are
process.
focusing on something too
So
narrow. That's
here's-
like
No, but I think it sounds like
let me
it's-
give you a
it's-
case.
it is that simple.
Let me give you a case where we were successful in arguing the point
Right.
of no, this is going to work, and you need to follow this.
Okay,
right?
that's a good one.
And so this is a great story as well.
let me.
And when they take
No,
the
no.
advice, holy cow, it worked, and they were shocked. And this goes to someone that was an expert in this particular area. It was a company that was working on tissue engineering as well, and they came to us.
not Kleenex, but
Not
skin.
skin. So they came to us. They came to us and they said, "Listen, this big competitor in this market has all their IP locked down, and we can talk about the specifics in this one." So they said, "Corning's got this product on the market. It's a tissue expansion chamber, right? And it's called the Corning Cell Cube." And
In the old days, that used to be called a rack, by the way.
there you go. And we can't seem to engineer around this thing. All the IP is locked down. But we want to get in this market. It's really lucrative that we do. And so they came to us and said, what do we do? And we went and looked at the problem, did an assessment, did that initial assessment, and said, well, we looked at all the IP, and Corning's got all their plates for growing these things on a horizontal plane. So we're just going to take it and flip it. We're going to grow these cells on a vertical plane.
Don't pound the desk.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, it was a sound effect.
We're going
in
to
that
grow it
case.
There was a
on a
sound
vertical
effect.
plane.
It's
So
perfectly
we flipped
placed.
it. And this PhD that had been working in this field for 25 years and was the renowned expert in tissue growth said, you can't do that. That's impossible. We've tried it. And we said, hold on. Well, we've done the homework. And if you give the cells the right amount of nutrients and the right flow and the right shear stress and all these things,
Right.
it's going to work just fine. It's first principles engineering. We broke it down. We're going to fix these problems, and we're going to build it up. And we had, engineers.
Three phone calls later.
3 phone calls later, 3 weeks later, we finally convinced them to say, okay, fine, try it.
Give it a whirl.
Give it a
Right.
whirl. And so after how many months did we put together a prototype? Like 3-4 months?
Yeah, about 3 months. We had to do a lot of computational fluid dynamics.
Right.
It's a difficult problem to get flow to come in a pipe and distribute in a rectangle, which is going to be critical to success. And when we did all that, we built the prototype, sent it to them. They seed it with cells, put it in their incubator. Takes a month to expand the cells.
Oh, man.
Okay, so I'm chomping at the bit here.
And then they called back and they said, "You're not going to believe this, but there's cells growing in every single corner of this thing. How did you do it?"
It works perfectly.
It works perfectly.
I got it. Okay, so
Eureka!
this is not.
But this is a
This is not
contentious
advertising
conversation.
the
This was a,
podcast.
you can't do this.
No.
Yeah.
This is not advertising
Right,
of the
I'm not-
podcast. It's
right.
failure of the podcast.
Right.
And and going back to the other point, though, I will argue
Yep.
that as consultants, none of us quite have the big picture in mind. We're hired for legal. You were hired for IT. You were hired for God
God
knows
only
what.
knows. Good
And
looks.
you guys are hired for.
For engineering.
For engineering. But that's we all fit into a small piece of a much larger puzzle. And as much as I don't like the current administration, as much as one doesn't like the way large companies run, all those things, it turns out we have a small picture and we're not the deciders. We provide input.
Yep.
Those inputs sometimes are taken and sometimes they're not.
That's right.
And it's easy to look back and say they screwed up, but maybe you guys were correct that the IoT company should have done X to get the product introduced, but they may not have wanted or needed the product introduced.
Yeah, but
none of us know.
The CEO or the founder or the person in charge
Because
has
this
to
is our
have
most
a vision
important project.
Right.
and has to know when to go right and when to go left to have a positive
But none of
outcome.
us know that. None of us know that for sure, because I think what you'll say in the end is we can all look back 10 years from now and we'll say, company, what was we calling them, DEF or XYZ? Company XYZ went under. We'll do a failure of the podcast with the CEO of them 10 years from now.
Yep.
And we'll say the failure was when you guys didn't adopt IoT. The flip side is there's an alternate universe where it turns out that was the smartest thing it ever did, because everyone else did IoT and the
And
Russians
crashed
broke
and
in
burned.
and
Yeah.
crashed and burned.
Yeah,
You
if they
zig,
have
we
enough
zag.
money
Got
to
it.
survive, who cares?
Yeah,
They tried things.
that one's a coin flip. I'll grant
don't
you that.
know.
But the common mode in a lot of these things is what is the user need? You got to bring it all the way back to the very beginning.
What problem
And
are you
start
trying to
with the
solve?
end in
What
mind.
is the problem you're
No,
trying to solve?
and my point is that's
And
your
what
guys'
is the user
focus.
need?
And that's,
Yeah.
that's your
Yeah.
focus. That doesn't mean that's the focus of your clients.
No, but that's what they.
No, that's right.
So if they're being brought in to do a
wait, wait,
workshop on your first workshop with a customer, with a
Sure.
physician, obviously you want to know. Well, we want to help solve this medical issue or solve this whatever through this product.
Right, and over time, we've actually gotten much better at saying, listen, the only conditions that we actually take this problem on are if you sit down with us and we show you all the reasons why this goes wrong. And those things happen too. Right, where we say, you come in, 2 days, we workshop this. At
Right.
the end of it, you're going to know exactly what the path looks
Right,
like.
and then you can make your
And
decisions
when we do
accordingly.
that, they go all the way.
Right, but if they do clients
We're out.
refuse
I
the
don't
workshop?
we don't need their money for the workshop. I don't
Right.
want their money for their upfront development. I want to go all the way.
Right.
And if they don't want to go on that path, then jump off the train.
Right, so
now.
they could well say to you, yeah, you guys are great, you're right, that's exactly what we should do.
Sure.
But we think, right or wrong, and we don't know now,
Right.
that we're going to go in a different direction.
And given
And Mark is pointing out that we have squandered another perfectly good
hour.
hour.
of our time.
I just want to make sure that we had a little bit of a time check.
No, this
Oh,
is-
we
this
never
is-
had a
Well,
peak
become
on
a
it.
marathon session.
Before we end, I've been burning to ask this question about
Oh, geez.
products. So you have in the market two products, Betamax, VHS.
Yeah.
One makes it, the other doesn't. And that's very, very applicable to engineering things. And why do you think some of these products make it and some don't? And the one that doesn't, in fact, is in an engineering way better than the one that makes it.
Well, VHS didn't make it, right? VHS was a temporary fix for
Betamax didn't make it. VHS did.
Yeah,
Well,
Betamax
but
didn't make it.
Betamax was the better.
Where's VHS today? Do you have a VHS player in your
No,
house?
that's
still do.
that was your point. It
Right,
didn't.
yeah,
okay.
that-
I still do.
Oh,
Right.
so longer
I have
term,
one
it
TV.
didn't make
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
For my Jane Fonda
I have
tapes.
one television that has a VHS built into it,
Yeah.
and it's sitting in the corner,
Yeah.
being
Right.
protected under
Just
a
in
blanket.
case.
Well,
just in case I ever
that's
wanna
because
watch
technology passed it by. That's
But
a
that's
different
Jeff's
story
point, which
than
is who's to say
Beta
what make
versus
it?
VHS.
That's right.
Yeah, who's to know?
That's right.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, I think the
But it had a
comment
good
you made,
run.
David,
VHS
is very
had a
Having a
valid.
very laissez-faire type of
having-
day.
It's having the bigger picture in mind. It's looking and starting with the end in mind and working towards that goal with your development partner, with your consultant.
Yeah, but
advisor.
Betamax, to go back, was the better technology. And for those 10 years where VHS was
the
the
go-to.
go-to, Betamax...
Because Sony kept it as proprietary.
Well, I have
and-
So the better
proprietary.
product
You're right.
doesn't necessarily
No,
win.
and look what happened to our election. The better product.
Oh. man.
You know, Ziad, I think he touched on the point there. That
We'll be editing that.
That was a proprietary versus open standard
Yes.
Okay.
discussion.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, Sony thought they could corner the market by having a better mousetrap, and that people would only buy Sony machines.
That's right.
And the VHS consortium said, hey, look, this is good enough. It's MVP,
Right.
if you
And-
will, and we'll all make one. And the rising tide floated all the boats for a long, long time.
Yeah, that's right. But it was a theme throughout Sony's history, right?
Right.
They still tried to do proprietary stuff, whether it was digital cameras or
That's right.
TVs or everything
Yeah,
else.
memory cards, they had-
We're gonna
everybody
own
was
the
doing-
connections, and
That's right.
And they failed because of it.
Correct.
So
Exactly
that
right.
confirms what we've been saying on this podcast all along. Get something out. Get people to using your product.
Become familiar.
Become familiar. Get some
right.
market share. Don't build the perfect product.
And listen,
that
to your
no one
product
will
design
ever
firms.
So, Craig, you get the last word. What you're going to say is thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you all, and goodbye.
Thank you.